All right, I think we'll get started. I think it's 11 o'clock. First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming here. But I'm Bush Hanson, and I'm your Master of Ceremonies for today's Memorial Day ceremony. And I'm also chairman of the Sumter County Veterans Association, which is made up of all the veterans groups throughout Sumter County. And you'll find them listed in your program if you look through their program and stuff here today. And on their behalf, I welcome all of y'all to today's ceremony. I personally want to thank everybody here in attendance, because the truth of the matter is, a lot of Americans don't even think of Memorial Day. Today is like a Memorial Day sale, or it's a extended weekend at the beach or the lake, or it's a start of summer vacation. I think we all saw on the news all the cars and all the airports were full and everything, so which is understandable because it's a 4-day weekend. But the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of people out there that really don't care, and that's why these kind of events are really important to highlight the sacrifices made by many. So your presence here is greatly appreciated and encouraged. And we gather here today to honor the sacrifices of the thousands of brave military men and women who have died to protect our freedom during our nation's wars. We are here to remember the cost of war, not in the dollars spent, which is obviously a lot, but as reflected by the deeds of our American heroes, and also from those from Sumter County whose names are inscribed on the memorial behind me. This memorial contains the names of the local veterans who died in conflicts around the world. Many of those still have families living in the local area. Are there any relatives here of the heroes listed on our memorial?
Yes.
And your name? Your name? Teresa Yates Washington. And what was his name? James Dickens. Go ahead. Bo Shaw. Lieutenant Irving Shaw. He's related to who Shaw is named after. Go ahead.
My name is Glenn Riles. My uncle died in World War II. His name is Bernard Gibson Riles, and I also have a cousin who died in the Korean conflict on that monument there. Thank you, sir, for acknowledging that.
All right, thank you. Remember for those families, there really isn't a Memorial Day. Every day to those families is a Memorial Day. Now, if you look on my left, you'll see a replica of Flanders Field. It's a replica of an American cemetery in Belgium where 368 of our American military dead lie. And in addition to our own cemeteries, this is just one of many American cemeteries and memorials throughout Europe and the Pacific Theater that watch over members of our military who gave their lives to not only protect our freedom, but also to help liberate the country, our soil, where they lie today, and many of them lie on islands. We thank Nancy Jordan of the American Legion Post 15 Lady Auxiliary for maintaining and setting up this replica. Now, when you read the names of the Sumter war dead on the memorial, or gaze at the replica of Flanders Field, you are not only gazing at American courage and extreme sacrifice, but in a sense, you are looking at the history of America, our democratic values, and the free world around us. This liberty and independence was not only achieved by the deeds of those who have passed away before us, and we honor here today, but also by the veterans and their families who are here today, and those living elsewhere in this great country. They also fought the good fight. They were the fortunate ones, and they made it back. And we thank everybody for those sacrifices and for service to your country. Today, though, is about honoring our war dead. And I'm sure most of y'all heard the expression, all gave some, and some gave all. And that's who we're here to honor today, the ones that gave all. And what the Memorial Day is all about. Unfortunately, this list continues to grow. Since 1775, over 1.3 million service members in wars have died, and since 2001 in the global war on terror, over 7,000 of our patriots have died. Now, this past Saturday, numerous people, including active duty, veterans, families, scouts, and veterans groups that are part of the Sumter County Veterans Association, we scoured all over Sumter County and put American flags over 4,500 graves and over 42 grave sites throughout Sumter County. And I want to thank everyone who participated in this visible recognition of our deceased veterans and their sacrifices. I would also like to thank the business and the individuals in the program that you read there today, because without them, we couldn't afford to buy the flags to put out on those grave sites. So thank you to those individuals and to those businesses. Now, I do have a couple of VIPs I'd like to recognize here today. Obviously, the real VIPs are honored dead. First, our guest speaker, President Alexander Conyers and his wife Agatha and his daughter Allie, and I'll speak more about you later, sir. State Senator Kevin Johnson, Sumter County Councilman Eugene Baton, was he here? Sumter County Councilman Charles Eden, I think he was back in the tent, and Sumter City Councilman James Blassingame. Yeah, that's not the things. I feel like I shouldn't be having this tent over my head right now when everybody's out there suffering in the heat. Please stand if you're able as Chaplain Paul Hefner comes from Shaw Air Force Base leads us in the opening prayer.
Good morning. Would you bow your heads? Eternal God and Creator of all people, we honor you, the giver of freedom. We gather on this Memorial Day to pay tribute to those men and women who have made the supreme sacrifice of life itself for the preservation of the freedom of our beloved nation. For their devotion to duty, for their willingness to accept the responsibility of the mission, we give you thanks. And we truly say to them and to their loved ones, thank you. On this day, we do remember and honor their lives, their deeds, their deaths. May we again resolve in our lives and how we live our lives that their deaths should not have been in vain. But may we as citizens of a nation founded upon faith in Almighty God stand firm to be keepers of the peace that others have given their lives for. Bless the loved ones of those whom we honor today. Fill them with a pride for their fallen and a comfort that can only come from you. And Lord, lastly, bless our active military today. Bless those of us especially downrange. It's in the name of Him who has given us life, peace, and freedom. Amen.
And before I forget, Representative Kimberly Johnson is also here on the thing. Now, please stay standing as the Crestwood High Honor Guard posts the colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. It will be followed by the National Anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. That was Staff Sergeant Jeannie Toro singing the national anthem. Now please note the empty chair over here to my left. It is here to represent a group of veterans that cannot be with us here today, and to honor the missing in action and our prisoners of war. We want to pay homage to our living and dead POWs and our MIA heroes, those who are still with us and those whose bodies were never recovered, and those who died in prisoner of war camps. We also want to offer our respect to POW and MIA wives, children, widows, orphans, grieving mothers and fathers, and any family members. Are there any former POWs here with us today? Are there any families of any POWs here today? All right, thank you. But we still honor all our POWs, MIAs. We're here to honor their sacrifices. Crestwood High School Honor Guard Cadet will now present the POW flag, and Sergeant Toro will sing Amazing Grace after.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come, His words my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've known less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Thank you, Jim. Now, for World War I through the present wars in the Middle East, our nation has had over 200,000 prisoners of war or missing in action. We still have over 81,000 missing in action that have never been accounted for. And it's our duty as a nation to never forget these special veterans. And as you look upon the POW MIA flag that belongs to everyone, the design, a black and white image of a gaunt silhouette, a single strand of barbed wire, and an ominous watchtower that reminds us we dare never forget those veterans who are here today and those POWs and MIAs that never made it back. Please don't ever forget that behind that silhouette on the flag is also a face that we can't see. The face of a husband, wife, father, mother, son, or daughter who has paid with their freedom for our freedom. Please help us to ensure through ceremonies like this nature that no POW is ever forgotten. Now, our guest speaker today is President Alexander Conyers, the South Carolina State University president and a Manning, South Carolina native, believe it or not. Colonel Conyers served 28 years in the U.S. Army, rising from private to colonel, culminating his career as the leader of the Army's largest military police brigade. His assignments have included stateside tours, as well as 2 tours at the Pentagon, I pray for you, and South Korea, Canada, and Afghanistan, and Guantanamo Bay. He has also previously served in the Senior Executive Service, which for those of you unfamiliar is a general officer equivalent, as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Review Boards. And of course, his involvement with his alma mater has never waned. He has served on the Board of Visitors as well as many other committees. He was inducted into the South Carolina State ROTC Hall of Fame. He holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from South Carolina State, a master's degree in corrections from the University of South Carolina, and another one in public administration from Troy University. He is also a graduate of the FBI National Academy. Please join me in welcoming Colonel Conyers.
Good morning, fellow Americans. Now, when I walked up this morning, although it's been 7 years since I retired, one of the first questions I was asked was, why aren't you in your military uniform? When I told that gentleman that I had my uniform out this morning, I was ready to go, all my awards were ready, but I couldn't find the shoes, but I could still fit the uniform. So next year I'll look for the shoes earlier, sir. But I just wanted to say thank you again for being here today. I know we've recognized our elected officials. Thank you again so much for being here. Any other elected officials we may have omitted, I'd like to personally recognize Colonel Oden here. Colonel Oden is one of the board of trustees at South Carolina State University, sir. Thank you and your wife for being here today. And he's also a retired veteran and certainly a leader in the Sumter community. Thanks for the invitation to serve as your keynote speaker today. I'd like to first recognize my dad, who's in the back row there, Rufus Conyers from Manning. And although my dad did not serve in the military, he certainly encouraged me to serve. As we're in the midst of high school graduation, as I was nearing high school graduation at Manning High School in 1983, he told me, he said, son, you've got two choices. It's either books or boots. And I'm taking your bed down the day after you graduate from high school. So I joined the Army at 18 years old and served for the next 32 years. Thank you, Dad. And my wife, Agatha, who's here up front with me, who served with me for the last 23 years, moving across the country. In our 23 years of being married, I asked Agatha to pick up with the children and moved a total of 13 times. And I have my daughter, Allie, with me, as noticed earlier as well. But most importantly, I want to thank each of you today for truly understanding the assignment for today. The assignment today isn't to honor living veterans like myself and many of you. The assignment, as was mentioned earlier, isn't to go shopping at the many Memorial Day sales, though many of us will do that as well. Instead, the assignment today is to honor those who gave the ultimate sacrifice while serving this country. Those who gave all, more than 1 million since the Revolutionary War. Those who we attended memorial services for. Those who never came back and who we leave an empty chair for at events. Those whose names the first sergeant calls, and after 3 times with no answer, the solemn sounds of taps are played. Those who we have performed the 3-round volley for and presented the American flag to a loved one. Those like my best friend and high school classmate, Specialist Gregory Walker, who at 20 years old died with 240 other soldiers from the 101st Airborne Division, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, on December 12, 1985, en route from a deployment, and they died in Gander, Newfoundland. Yes, these honored Americans have died at home and abroad while serving. Now, if you will allow me just one moment before I go on with my Memorial Day speech, to speak briefly about another war Americans are dying at home from. This war is gun violence, and the Americans who are dying are innocent children. For those who took the same oath as I, we swore to protect and defend America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Brothers and sisters, I say to you today that gun violence is a domestic enemy. When I think about our young children dying, I cannot help but to think about the American lives we honored here today, which was lost in other countries, so that those children can have better lives, among other things. I think of the empathy that I had for the young children of Afghanistan during my year of combat, where I prayed and hoped for a better life, for better lives for the children of Afghanistan. Yet, I vividly remember thinking that I may not see my children again. I vividly remember the night I wrote a letter to my 6-year-old son and my 4-year-old daughter to be open if I did not return. So forgive me for asking myself, why, if we can bring all forces and resources to bear to save other countries and children like we should, why Why can't we do the same to win this war for our children? But that's another speech for another time. Back to my Memorial Day speech. On this day, across the nation, we find our flags flying at half-staff, Memorial Day parades of servicemen and women, and memorial structures of valor created within parks just as this. Within these scenes can be found valor and sorrow. It is fitting that we recognize and memorialize our fallen comrades in the most beautiful ways. Yet, the why still haunts comrades and families alike with the sorrow of losing a loved one. As a retired officer, I can tell you that I recognize all sides, so I know the sorrow, and I celebrate valor in service and sacrifice. Today has been set aside as a time to reflect upon our fallen comrades. Memorial Day is a time we take to honor and recognize the sacrifices made by those elected to protect the freedom of our nation.